Hey there, what's going on? Welcome to After Prison Show. I promise this isn't AI. I've been doing a lot of that as of lately, really trying to redefine the wheel in the prison genre and hoping to use AI to make some After Prison Show exclusive movies. Not sure if you guys have seen what I've done in relation to Broke Wing with that.
In the rec yard, look at this. That's the chow line coming back, and these birds are already waiting on them. Look at that. They don't care. Snatch it right off the tray. These seagulls are bold, man. You try to eat out here, good luck. Happens every day.
They ain't messing with lunch today.
Yo, chill, man.
Got him.
Ha! Look at it fly.
Dang, you hit him. He can't even get off the
Shouldn't have
ground.
stole our cornbread.
I know they're annoying, but that bird ain't got nowhere else.
For you, Broke Wing. You're my celly now. We keep each other alive in here.
Broke Wing! No! Come back!
Yeah, I think that it's pretty good, but there's those who just can't get past the fact that it's AI. Some people just have a real complex when it comes to AI. Understandably. Also, let's go ahead and address real quick this phenomenal lighting that I've got going on in here. It kind of got this ambiance, sort of like I'm in an interrogation room. Kind of. Maybe not. Anyways, none of that's got anything to do with anything, folks. It's been a while since I've had a video for After Prison Show. Forgive my absentee. You guys are heavy on my heart all the time. I do got a crazy story to bring you guys, and it's coming to us from none other than Louisiana. Didn't they just have a big story come out of there not too long ago in relation to the prison system? Oh, that's right, they did, over this past summer. Or maybe right before then, when 10 prisoners escaped from a New Orleans jail. And the last of those 10, Derek Groves, was just recently apprehended. Well, folks, there's been yet another jailbreak coming out of the state of Louisiana. We're going to talk about that here today. And as we do so, I want to pose a question like, why is it Louisiana of all places? Why is it that a place like that, such an impoverished, poverty-stricken, I would imagine, state with one of the highest incarceration rates, maybe not anymore, but at one point they certainly did, have one of the highest incarceration rates. Why is it that a state like Louisiana seems to have so many jailbreaks taking place? I mean, when we think back to the 10 that escaped from the Orleans Parish Jail right before the summer, even during the height of that escape, when many of those prisoners were on the run, there were additional escapes from that same state taking place. This is going to have nothing to do with what we're talking about here, but I want to bring up another interesting fact about Louisiana, at least I believe it to be a fact. I heard this from a pretty reputable source. Nick Saban, as a matter of fact, last weekend during College Game Day, talking about the Lane Kiffin abandonment of Ole Miss for LSU. Why would Lane Kiffin leave a team that's in the playoffs for a theoretical playoff team? Well, when this topic came up during College Game Day, Nick Saban made the statement. He says, do you know that per capita, Louisiana has the most people coming out of that state going into the league? So Louisiana has a whole lot of things going on. They've got the most people coming out of that state to go into the NFL, and they've also got the most jail escapes taking place, at least as of late. And I think that both of those two things are related to one particular thing that maybe nobody really wants to address. Why would a state have so many people going into the NFL and also so many people escaping from a jail? What type of people, dare I say, do you got in that state? Better yet, let me word it like this. You have more what in that state than probably anywhere else? Impoverished, poverty-stricken people. Exactly. You probably thought I was going to say black people, but I baited you there. You see what I did? It worked too. You was down on me in the comment section probably saying, Joe, you about to be raped. That was you thinking that, not me. Folks, this latest escape coming out of Louisiana just took place 2 days ago. The latest information that I've got is coming 11 hours ago with the headline that reads, search underway for the last of 3 inmates who escaped Louisiana jail. Authorities are still searching for the last of 3 inmates who made a brazen escape down the outer wall of a Louisiana jail last week after one inmate was cornered in a storage shed and taken into custody. Damn, shout out to the guards in that jail playing John Wick. They don't really get paid enough to be a hero, but it seems like in this particular case, somebody was certainly earning their pay, and I surely hope they get a bonus for this. You get some bonus points, brownie points, stripes on your arm if you thwart an escape attempt. I don't know if that was the right word. It's been a long time since I played Scrabble. Damn, that's wild. They say one of the inmates was cornered in a storage shed and taken into custody. When you have a deer in the headlights, an escaped prisoner right there in front of you, and you're a guard or whatever, maybe even a civilian, is it no holds bars for what you could, like nothing's off of the table, kick him in the nuts, scratch out his eyeball. Like, hey, yo, you got to get back in the jail. We got to get you back in there. Imagine escaping with a lesser charge. A larceny charge, a theft charge, and you're trying to escape, putting your life in danger because they will kill you down there in that state. I don't know that for sure, but when I hear Louisiana, that's what I be thinking. One inmate was cornered in a storage shed and taken into custody, and another fatally shot himself in a home surrounded by police. Now, I do need to make mention of the fact that when I first heard about this story 2 days ago, you know, these guys were not no saints. These were violent offenders who escaped from the jail. But it's wild to think they had this dude, it seems like, probably surrounded in the house, and Buddy took his life. That's crazy. Would that be considered holding court in the street to a certain degree? I don't want to make joke saying this, so don't take it as I'm making light of this situation. But when you think about that tattoo, that cliche common prison tattoo that so many people get, only God can judge me, this sounds like a pretty good example of just that. Though if you take your own life, I have heard you're going to hell, so. The inmates, all three of whom were being held on charges of a violent nature, escaped from the St. Landry Parish Jail Wednesday after gradually removing mortar and concrete blocks from a wall and using sheets to scale down the outside and drop to the first floor roof. These guys, too, carried out a pretty outlandish jail escape. Maybe not exactly on the level of what took place at that Orleans Parish jail, but to be gradually removing mortar and concrete blocks from a wall, that takes time, calculation. What are you doing when you're not grinding out that mortar? What kind of a toothpaste concoction are you using to make it look like that mortar is still there? How are you avoiding detection for the months that it probably took you to saw through these walls? Two things come to mind when I read about this that remind me of when I was locked up, when I was serving time. One, there was a guy named Google who I was locked up with, nicknamed Google. He ended up getting 200 and something odd years. I think it was 216 years. The recommendation the jury gave was 209 years. The judge exceeded those guidelines because of the heinous nature of the case. Google and two other assailants broke into an elderly lady's home, duct taped her, beat her up. She had two black eyes when they were showing her on the news. Put her in a bathtub and robbed her house of frickin' an air fryer, a toaster oven, and a VCR, some shit along them lines. All strung out on drugs, the three of them were. Google ended up with 216 years because of what addiction led him to do. His two other co-defendants took plea deals for 25 years apiece. Ironically, thinking about it, I've been released from prison now for 10 years. These guys were getting locked up around the same time that I was. So if I did 7 years and it's been 10 years separated, we're talking 17 years right now. Google's co-defendants are getting ready to come home somewhat, and Google's never coming home. But anyways, one of his co-defendants, a guy that was nicknamed P-Sight, because of the big dumbass Coke bottle-like prison bifocals that he wore, basically looking like a PDF. He ended up getting caught in the jail and caught some additional time because he was digging through the walls, trying to escape. I don't know how much additional time he ended up getting, but I know that he got additional time for that. The other story that I'm reminded of is in relation to myself, actually. I ended up getting caught in that jail during a shakedown with a bunch of tattoo paraphernalia and a homemade device, actually. I can't even remember what I made it out of. Some kind of a long nail, and Essentially, it looked like a shiv. It looked like a poker. It looked like a prison knife, but that's not what it was. It was, in fact, a tool, screwdriver-like, that I was going to use myself to be digging through the wall. You know, when you're locked up, man, all you're thinking about is escape. And when you're not knowing, when the unknown is so known, at least all you can do is think the worst of what's going to happen to you. Why wouldn't you be contemplating escape? But when I got caught in the shakedown, they caught me with a bunch of tattoo paraphernalia. They also caught me with that device. So when I went to my hearing, which is essentially like going to court in the jail for your charge, I'm sitting in the hole. You know, they bring me into the little room. There's even inmate representation that you can get. No bullshit. In prison, there's a prison job where you're essentially a jailhouse lawyer. You represent prisoners during these hearings. I don't know if they had them in the jail, though. I remember being in there by myself, so probably not. But anyways, they asked me what it was, and I wasn't about to tell them it was a tool that I was using to hatch an escape. I just told him it was a knife for protection. So I got a weapons charge along with all that tattoo paraphernalia. Joe was a badass.
What's up, little workshop here? Homemade tattoo gun.
And look at this. Blade wrapped up like a handle. You want to explain the knife?
It's for protection, man. That's all it is. I ain't looking to hurt nobody. Just don't want to be the one that gets gotten here.
We'll see what the captain...
The inmate's still at large. I guess there's only one of them still at large. 24-year-old Keith Eli was in the jail on an attempted second-degree murder charge, authorities said. We will continue our efforts without end to apprehend Keith Eli. We would prefer that he surrender himself peacefully, but we will not rest until he is captured. Another inmate, Jonathan Joseph of someplace that I can't pronounce, was arrested after law enforcement acted on numerous tips, the sheriff said Friday. The 24-year-old, who had been jailed on charges of rape and other crimes, surrendered after first running into a storage shed near a home where he'd been hiding out. I don't know why he lived. A day earlier, Joseph Allen Harrington, 26, who faced several felony charges, including home invasion, killed himself after he was found. Harrington was recognized by a tipster who told police he was pushing a black e-bike, which was later found at a nearby home. Police used the loudspeaker to urge Harrington to come out of the home, but later heard a gunshot. Harrington was found dead inside the house after shooting himself with a hunting rifle. Wow. Folks, here's that makeshift rope that these prisoners used after they were able to saw through these concrete block walls and then scale down the side of this jail. Interesting to note about a situation like this where prisoners use rope to escape from a high-rise correctional facility. I've got another story for you. Joe's just full of story times. Hey, we're doing a 20-day prison story marathon again in one video. When I see a picture like this of this makeshift rope made out of bed sheets, undoubtedly, I'm reminded of a jail that's literally right down the street from where I live, that they're actually tearing down this week. They've moved all the prisoners to another jail. They're going to build apartments there, I'm sure. It is a waterfront area, but that's a high-rise jail as well, too. And many years ago, I can't remember exactly when this took place, some prisoners carried out an escape similar where they used bed sheet ropes to scale down the side of the jail. But the two prisoners who did this were in a hurry to get out of here. And as the one prisoner was going down the makeshift rope, the other prisoner started coming down at the same time. And the rope gave way. And the second prisoner landed on top of the first prisoner and killed him. But the second prisoner survived. And ironically, he's still in prison right now. Here's a picture of the hole that they escaped from. Not much, but just enough, it must have been, to get your whole body through. This week's incident marks the latest brazen escape from a Louisiana jail this year after 10 inmates broke out of a New Orleans jail in May in a stunning overnight escape using electrical hair trimmers with multiple clipper blades to help cut their way through rebar and cast iron metal piping. The last of those 10 escapees wasn't recaptured until 5 months later at a home in Atlanta. This is also the second escape from St. Landry Parish Jail since October. Folks, it's only 2 months separated from October. One inmate got away before being recaptured by the police. In that escape, the inmate was a trustee, a prisoner typically granted special privileges, who was able to run away in the process of being escorted from one building to another.
Moving inmate, eyes forward.
Yeah, right. Now we're next. Hey, stop! Inmate's loose in the corridor. Lock it down. He's heading for the yard. Freedom's right there.
The sheriff emphasized in an interview, the jail is overcrowded and it needs a lot of maintenance. A claim that has been disputed by the parish government. You know, the same thing was said about the Orleans Parish Jail when those 10 prisoners escaped. When the shit happens on your watch, you better start talking about infrastructure. The claims about crumbling walls and rusted out cell door locks are inaccurate. The parish jail does not have these structural issues, and I invite the sheriff to produce documentation to substantiate his claims, Parish President Jesse somebody said in a post. In a news conference on Thursday, they said the jail was built in 1982 and is structurally sound. Folks, I was born in 1982. I'm 43 years old, and I got all sorts of shit wrong with me. So you mean to tell me a building probably doesn't? I beg to differ. The rest of this story is just about back and forth about whether the jail is in good shape or not. Folks, absolutely crazy. 2 escapes prior have taken place at this same exact jail since October. Wild to think. Just wanted to bring this to you guys. Hope you found some interest, maybe some enjoyment in this. If you did so, please leave a like and a comment letting me know exactly what you thought about this. Hey, if you've got the ability to hype these videos here on After Prison Show, I don't even know what that means, but it would certainly mean a lot. I guess it's a new YouTube thing. And thanks for taking the time. Hey, look, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did so, please leave a like and a comment letting me know exactly what you thought about this. And as always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world, never take a moment for granted, and make the most of every day. Peace!